We're not done with the reconstruction yet, but I can tell you that everyone's prints are in that bathroom.
He admits he was there. There's no surprise.
This will be. This is Joe's shirt. Blood on it only belongs to him. This is Cheryl's. 2 different blood types, both male. One matches Joe, the other's unknown.
So it's got to be Eddie's.
It's not. Y chromosomes from the DNA say the samples come from 2 unrelated males.
So now we got another guy in that bathroom with Joe, Eddie, and Cheryl?
That's what I thought until I tested this.
You get that out of the bathroom?
No, from EMS. Medics used it to wrap Cheryl's bloody hand, then we collected it for evidence. It's called a control sample because the only blood on it is Cheryl's.
Well, what's that going to tell us?
I compared the blood on the bandage to our unknown male. It was a match.
Cheryl's a man?
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name's Adam, here in Albuquerque. I don't know. I'm joined in line by Josh. How are things, Josh?
They're all right.
Yeah. You're going up the country, right? Yeah.
Nice. Going up this weekend we're just leaving Friday, come back Sunday. So,
would you say that the water tastes like wine up there, Josh?
Yes.
Okay, good. Josh, like what I really liked about this episode that we're about to talk about is how it crystallized for me how much Dom Toretto missed the quant powers of attention deficit disorder superhero Jesse.
Yeah.
When he was trying to break into that nuclear submarine in the fate of the Furious.
Fate of the Furious.
Yeah. Because he really could have used those quant powers.
He needed that shit.
The ADD, man. The ADHD quant powers. But guys, first off, Josh, what are you drinking?
How many people do you think understand what you're talking about right now? I mean, I do because I just looked him up. But anyway, I mean, I love it. I'm here for it.
We'll,
family, man.
Guys, more on this later. Okay, we'll get deep into this.
I'm drinking a Bullet Rye Rocks in my. Gotta face this to camera.
Nice.
Tony's on the pier, Redondo Beach, California.
Great bar. Thankfully, Tony's is on the right side of Palos Verdes, so it's not going to fall into the ocean anytime soon.
Yeah.
Unlike the Trump National Golf Course, which
let's hope that all falls in. Yeah. Unofficial, official bar, Munch My Benson. And then I've got a backup hams that I'll crack open at some point.
Nice. I've also got some Bullet Rye on the Rocks, and I've got a old reliable. Well, it's a Happy Camper from Santa Fe Brewing, and the official Very Large Array Radio Telescope koozie of the pod. Nice. Yeah.
By the way, Diageo, we're open for sponsorship if you want to just send us cases of Bullet Rye.
100%. Also, a Very Large Array. I know that. If you have a radio telescope you want to throw our way, I think. Whatever the NRAO, which is the National Radio, whatever it is. Anyways, maybe they're a subset of.
I think
NOAA?
It's just the NRA.
It's not the NRA. But yeah, if any radio telescopes want to advertise on the pod, we'll gladly. Yep. We will air the entire Jodie Foster film. That is the the introduction to the the VLA. If you go there. That's great.
Yeah, we'll do a public feed movie club. I'm sure someone's been in contact.
Yeah, somebody's had to have been in contact.
Yeah,
would love to do contact.
Yeah,
with your support, of course.
Yeah. With your support. The support's incumbent upon making that a public movie club episode.
Yeah, guys, we watched A controversial episode, at least from this vantage point. It's season 4, episode 21, Fallacy. Poor Lizette didn't mean to have a full-on house party when she'd invited a couple friends over, but now she's doing her best to manage the chaos. Her neighbors are pissed, her house is trashed, and she just heard glass break in the bathroom. She pushes her way inside to find a terrified and bloodied Cheryl Avery, who'd just broken a vase over the head of Joe Capilla, the man she claims tried to rape her. Unis tell Detective Benson that Cheryl won't agree to a rape kit, which doesn't mean she's lying about the assault, but she has escaped from the ambulance, which is going to make solving this crime a real doozy. Lizette tells B&E that she only invited 5 friends over for pizza and had never met either Cheryl or Joe before. Lizette's friend Ricky invited all the partygoers and says Cheryl was Joe's brother Eddie's girlfriend. A call comes in saying that Joe died at the hospital, so Bensler head to Joe's mom's house to break the bad news. There they meet Eddie, who says he left the party before the fight between Cheryl and Joe occurred. He says he has a heart condition and left to get his medicine from home. Eddie says Joe could be a real jerk to women, especially when he was high, which was most of the time, so he fully believes Cheryl's account of the assault. He gives them his girlfriend's address, so our heroes go and pay her a visit. She seems pretty upset that Joe is dead and tells him how Joe snuck into the bathroom after her, fondled her breasts, and punched her in the face, so she hit him with the vase and pushed him, whereupon he fell and hit his head on the bathtub. Cabot tells Cragen she's not interested in filing charges against Cheryl, assuming the crime lad corroborates her story, and Joe's tox screen tests positive for crystal meth. To make sure there's no case here, Stiblenson talked to the paramedic who transported Joe. He tells him Joe had injuries to his hand consistent with punching Cheryl in the jaw and was also rambling about how Eddie did it before he lost consciousness. So they go talk to Cheryl at the East Village thrift shop she works at, only to find her making out with Eddie in the back. They're both taken in for questioning, where they both cling desperately to their stories. Finally, Eddie cracks and says yes, he did come back to the party and walked in on Cheryl just after Joe hit his head. CSU Bert Trevor tells the detectives that he has something of a whodunit afoot. While Joe's shirt has blood all over it, Cheryl's shirt has Joe's plus the blood of an unknown, unrelated male on it. He tested that blood against the bandage used to wrap Cheryl's bloody hand, and it was a match. Cheryl has a Y chromosome, which means she and Eddie must have conspired to kill Joe because he must have discovered her secret, which, to be fair, we don't even know is a secret at this point. Considering that this is SVU after all, it's a little surprising just how surprised the entire unit is that Cheryl has, or once had, a unit herself. The team throws around a litany of uncomfortable slurs, and Liv thinks she's the hottest trans woman she's ever seen. Wong thinks Eddie might be the weaker of our 2 co-conspirators, so Stabler sits down with him and outs Cheryl as being trans. Eddie is incredulous, saying he's felt up her sweet titties. He says Cheryl always said they needed to wait to have sex and would push his hand away from him exploring her nether regions. He then somehow just leaves the interrogation room looking for Cheryl. When he finds her, he wantonly grabs her junk, then calls her a freak and storms out. Benson says they thought Eddie must have known, but Cheryl says she was waiting to have the surgery before she told him. She then says she hit Joe over the head with a vase since Joe found out and she panicked. Stabler rushes to the men's room to console Eddie, only to find he'd taken an overdose of his heart medicine. They begin compressions, but to no avail. Wong pronounces him dead 10 minutes later. Having a lethal dose of drugs in Eddie's possession means I.A.B. Tucker is on scene investigating this before the body is even wheeled away, but we don't get to follow up on that at all. Cheryl is charged with second-degree murder, and her attorney Morton Berger tells Cabot that Cheryl killed Joe to protect herself from the lynch mob he was sure to unleash once he'd learned her secret. Cabot thinks this argument might have legs, so she sends the SVUs to get some background on Cheryl's upbringing. Cheryl's parents say Charlie, as she was known then, stole her mother's menopause hormones and started taking them at 16, so they threw her out. They also say Cheryl beat a kid badly with a baseball bat and put him in the hospital. Sarah, the Avery's youngest daughter, follows Benson outside and tells her that she's okay with who Cheryl is, but she has to keep their relationship secret from their parents. Sarah says Cheryl was hounded constantly in school and that her parents wouldn't let her transfer to a special high school for LGBTQ youth in the city. Benson tells Cabot that she thinks Cheryl only ever acted in self-defense, so Alex proposes that Wong sit down for a psych evaluation. She tells him she wanted to be a woman since she was 7, and that her dad first beat her up when she was 10. She says that Eddie was the best thing that ever happened to her, but she was too afraid of the consequences to tell him before she had the sex change surgery. Wong agrees with Benson, so Cabot offers a plea deal for manslaughter 1. Berger says Cheryl wants to go to trial. He also says Cheryl's case can help change what is considered normal and that she was the victim the entire time and only ever acted in self-defense. Cabot has a clandestine meeting with Cheryl at a coffee shop to tell her that she is concerned Berger is using her for a soapbox and not representing her best interests. When Cheryl says the jury will take her side, Cabot says no, the jury will be filled with transphobic monsters who will relish sending her to prison for the rest of her life. Cabot wonders why she won't take the generous deal she's been offered, and Cheryl says Berger never told her about the offer. This causes a significant brouhaha with Berger arguing that 5 years in the pen is much worse than no years, while Cabot argues that Berger is trying to make Cheryl a martyr for the trans cause. She takes the deal, and Benson and sister Sarah were the only people in court supporting her. Berger then storms into SVU's office and tells Benson that Cheryl now feels she was tricked into pleading guilty, so Benson heads to Riker to talk to a distraught Cheryl who had no clue she was going to be thrown into the general population of a men's prison. Benson, of course, assumes Berger neglected to tell Cheryl she'd be going to a men's prison so that he'd have an appeal to file and a hot media item to run with. Cabot says she can't do anything to help since New York State considers Cheryl to be a man. A judge gives Cheryl a choice, either stop hormone treatments or go into protective custody, which entails 23 hours a day in solitude. Since she hadn't been sentenced yet, alternatively, they can ask the trial judge to vacate the guilty plea and take the case back to a jury, which they do. While Cabot wants off the case, D.A. Branch convinces her to stay on so that the facts of the case, not Cheryl's gender, are the issue at trial. Cabot cross-examines Cheryl about how she killed Joe, not because she was in fear for her life about him telling other partygoers, but that she was in fear of losing Eddie if her secret got out. Cheryl pleads not to be thrown back into the hell of a men's prison. Benson asks Cabot out for a drink, which is declined since Cabot worries she pushed Cheryl too hard on the stand. Benson then gets a call. Cheryl has already been gang raped at Rikers, and we are left with a... Christ, I don't even want to blow the prison rape horn now. Dick Wolf. Thanks for ruining everything, SVU.
All right, so guest stars, we have a fuck ton of them. It's very rare that you see that many credited actors in an episode of SVU. It's a lot. We've talked about 9 of them before.
Okay. There's still a lot left.
Karen Browning. Yeah, still a lot left. Yeah, Karen Browning's playing CSU Tech Judith Sliper. We talked about her in 29. I was going to say the guy's scared stiff. Season 5, episode 8, Abomination. Michael Lerner's playing defense attorney Morton Berger. That was 52. It's going to be really hard for her to find more afterbirth for her voracious angel. Mm-hmm. Discussing season 7, episode 4, Taboo.
Yeah,
that episode's fucked up. That's a lot more fun than this one.
Yeah.
Bridget Barkan is playing Veronica. We've seen her twice playing Lisa Everly. First time was in episode 78. She Has Ears That Lend Themselves to Elfing. Season 13, episode 22, Strange Beauty.
Another great one.
Yeah, what a gem that one was. Lindsay Kraft playing Lisette, the one throwing the party in the beginning. We saw her in 85. The whole second half of this episode is basically Stabler can't give everyone a ticket to the gun show. Season 12, episode 13, Mask. There she's playing Courtney. Robert John Burke playing Ed Tucker. We talked about him in 90. We've got her blooded. We got to shoot this fast. That one was season 15, episode 21, Postmortem Blues.
Yeah.
We've discussed Sheila Tousey playing Judge Daniel Larson. That was in 102. Schizophrenic Pantene commercial. That was season 5, episode 6, Coerced. Daniel Sanjata playing CSU Tech Bert Trevor was discussed in 164. Craig and Handplay, check. Where we were talking season 1, episode 20, Remorse, the second time we did that one. There he was playing Bomb Squad guy, Trevor Burt. Tom O'Rourke, Judge Mark Seligman was talked about in 167. The whole point of the thong is that you don't make the panty line. There we're talking season 2, episode 3, Closure, part 2. And lastly, we've already discussed Fred Thompson playing D.A. Arthur Branch. That was in 183. It doesn't tickle my twasn't. Back in season 6, episode 23, Goliath. First up, Kate Manick playing Cheryl Avery. She was born in Philadelphia to violin maker William Manick and Broadway dancer Mary Zahn. Her father's half-sister is Blythe Danner, so she is cousins with Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah. She moved to New York City at 18 to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Her first acting role was in Adam's favorite music video for Is Anybody Home, the Our Lady Peace song.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Kate made her off-Broadway debut in 2006 opposite Lee Pace in the two-hander Guardians, based loosely on Lindy England. Lindy England, the Abu Ghraib.
Oh, yeah.
Kate has done a lot of stage work since that play, and since kind of she established herself on TV. Outside of 2 shorts, her first role was as main cast in the show Young Americans. She's also been main cast in The L Word, 3 Rivers, Ray Donovan, and the subsequent movie, and the L Word Generation Q. Yeah. She had a recurring role in Grownish. She was in the films Love the Hard Way, The Shipping News, Art School Confidential, Everybody's Fine, The Lincoln Lawyer, Gone, Default, My Dead Boyfriend, and Squealer. She's in 1 episode of the original series. She was an ambassador for the Tomboy clothing range Wildfang. Whatever fucking clothing range means.
I don't. Yeah, what is a range? I've heard of a line. I don't know what a range is.
Sure, we all have. But that is what it was dubbed. She apparently designed a boot for that line. Anyway.
Oh, that range, Josh. It's a range.
Yeah, sorry, that range. Oh, you know why? Bruce Hornsby.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. Does anybody really care? Yeah, I don't know.
She also did she did a Michael Connolly book, the narration for it. I'm assuming she's done more since, but that was on her Wikipedia page. She's been married to musician Ana Resende, guitarist and keyboardist of the band CSS since 2017. Chad Lindbergh, getting to the real important stuff here, playing Eddie.
Oh, you talking about the poor man's Giovanni Ribisi? Yeah, let's talk about him.
Well, like
he's got DPO vibes, Josh. DPO vibes.
I watched that pretty recently.
Nice.
Yeah, that episode's great. Him and Jack Black. X-Files for people who don't understand Adam and my being able to instantly recall X-Files episode names. Yeah, DPO is the name, is the 3-letter name that he types in on the video game that he has the record for and all of it. Anyway.
Which he cheats at because he can speak to lightning. It's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bullshit. Chad Lindbergh is playing Eddie Capella here. Born in Mount Vernon, Washington, attended Mount Vernon High School.
Mount Vernon. I stayed in Mount Vernon a month ago.
How was
Actually, I stayed in Burlington, but they're the same thing. No difference.
Chad Lindbergh's in the films Born to Be Wild, Black Circle Boys, The Velocity of Gary, which I always thought was a really funny name, and I never watched, and I feel like I kind of need to. City of Angels, Mercury Rising, October Sky, The Fast and the Fucking Furious.
Yeah, that one.
Which, that's what Adam was talking about with the ADHD.
His character, Jesse Lindbergh's character, Chad Lindbergh's character is, he has magical abilities to do math because of his ADHD, which somehow helps the car race. The car race happened.
Obviously. He's also in A Midsummer Night's Rave, The Last Samurai. I don't know what he would be doing in The Last Samurai.
Tweaking?
I kind of want to rewatch it, honestly, just to see how weird that is. National Lampoon's Adam and Eve, I Spit in Your Grave. That's the remake, obviously. He wasn't in the original one. Rise of the Zombies, and Horizon: An American Saga Chapter 2, which I believe just came out.
Nice. I feel like he's kind of typecast as a tweaker, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's why you called him Jesse, because you're calling him Jesse Pinkman. He had a recurring role in ER, CSI New York, Supernatural, Blue, NCIS, Sneaky Pete, and Star Trek Picard. Also don't know how that would work. Philip Hoffman's playing trial psychiatrist. Born in Chicago, joined SAG-AFTRA in 1981 after moving to New York City, and also appeared in his first Broadway show that year. He's in the films Sliver, which I just rewatched.
Nice. Oh, yeah, Sliver.
Really good. Lullaby, Love and Everything in Between, and The Last Thing Mary Saw. He had recurring roles in Generations, not
Star Trek Generations. No.
Blue Bloods, Madoff, Billions, The Plot Against America, and Bull. He's in 6 episodes of the original series, 1 Deadline, 1 Criminal Intent, and 1 more SVU that we haven't seen yet. We've got Todd Sussman playing Assistant District Attorney alongside Cabot in that one scene where there are 2 ADAs for the state. He was born in St. Louis, Missouri. He graduated from Ladue Horton Watkins High School. He was one of 2 uncredited PA announcers on MASH. So he did the PA announcership for 47 episodes of MASH. He had moved to LA in 1971 to make a living as a writer, hearing that you could make $500 a week, which is a lot of money in 1971.
Yeah.
Only to find out when he got there that the best job he could get was at some future subsidiary of MGM or something. And he was making $60 a week instead of $500.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. But that's pretty much Hollywood. Yep.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, that's how it goes. He did write an episode of The Incredible Hulk, which featured John Davis Chandler, the head of the car theft syndicate in Adventures in Babysitting.
Nice.
He's in the films Star Spangled Girl, The Loners, Little Cigars, California Dreaming, I'm Married a Centerfold, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Only the Strong, Coneheads, Night of the Running Man, The Juror, Blast from the Past, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. You don't know Jack.
Not the old one.
Yes, the new one.
Yeah.
Because he was acting when the original came out.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't know Jack the Discoverers, and Pinball, the Man Who Saved the Game. He was main cast in The Bob Crane Show.
Wow.
He was also main cast in Spencer's Pilots, Star of the Family, Have Faith, City, and Scorch, where he was doing voice work. He had recurring roles. There was multiple episodes of Room 222, MASH, The Waltons, Goodnight Beantown, Newhart, St. Elsewhere. Yeah, R.I.P. Bob. St. Elsewhere, Fresno. Karen Shallow's playing Judge Schechtel.
Yeah.
We saw her playing Rose Matthews in 213. He's a senile train perv.
Yeah.
That was season 14, episode 8, Lessons Learned. She was born in Philadelphia. 2 Philadelphians in this episode. Not a young one, though, so we can't invoke Paul Newman here. The star of the Young Philadelphians. She's in the films Over the Brooklyn Bridge, Once Upon a Time in America, which is crazy long and does not need to be.
It's so long. Why is it so long?
It doesn't need to be that long.
No.
Garbo Talks, Hot Shot, Hello Again, Spike of Bensonhurst, Mortal Thoughts, School Ties, 2 Bits, Big Night, Center Stage, Mind the Gap, The Producers from the Mid-Aughts, and Bottled Up. She had recurring roles. It was in multiple episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, Hot House, All My Children, Another World, and Third Watch. She's in 11 episodes of the original series. I think almost all as a judge. 1 Criminal Intent and 1 more SVU. Leland Gant is playing Stu Matos.
Don't remember that character.
Do not.
Sounds like a baseball player, though.
He was born in McKeesport, Pennsylvania.
Man, a lot of
graduated from the
Pennsylvanians.
Kingsport area high school. Yeah, attended Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which is my favorite weird university, before transferring to Point Park College, where he got his BA. After struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, he was inspired to pursue acting by a theater teacher and moved to New York City in 1983. He appeared in Broadway productions of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Fences, Richard III, Crumbs from the Table of Joy, Gem of the Ocean, Judas Iscariot, and The Fall of Heaven. He was nominated for a Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Featured Actor in a Play for his turn in Let Me Live. He's been in the films Rockin' Road Trip, Presumed Innocent, The Super, Malcolm X, Pants on Fire, Requiem for a Dream, and Miracle at St. Anna. He was MLK in the miniseries Hoover versus the Kennedys. He's in 2 episodes of the original series and 1 episode of New York Undercover. We've got Nicholas J. Giulio. Saw him playing Mort in episode 91. This isn't even a prison rape taunt. That episode was season 10, episode 20, Crush.
Yeah.
He's been in the films The Wanderers, Last Exit to Brooklyn, Street Hunter, Jungle to Jungle, Godzilla, the one from 98.
The bad one.
A Tale... Yes, with
the Matthew Broderick one with the weird, like, where Godzilla doesn't look like Godzilla at all. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, there are plenty of Godzillas where Godzilla doesn't look like Godzilla at all.
But he especially didn't look like
that's
Godzilla
the most
in that
egregious one.
Yeah.
A Tale of Two Pizzas and Alto. He's in 7 episodes of the original series, 2 Criminal Intents and 1 more SVU. And we've got Mary Elaine Monty playing Annabelle Avery. She's Meisner trained from William Esper. She was a member of the comedy team Ace Trucking Company, which included founding members Fred Willard, Bill Saluga, George Memoli, and Michael Mislov. She's in the films Is There Sex After Death? The Herod Experiment, No Big Deal, Wolves of Wall Street, which is about werewolves on Wall Street that predates The Wolf of Wall Street. Mary Elaine Monty had a recurring role in Park Place. She was also in 4 episodes of the original series. Then we've got T-Lyn Eanes, who's also known as Tanisha Lynn, playing Ricky. She's the one who was throwing the party in Lisette's place. Mm-hmm. She's born in Houston. She got a BFA in theater from NYU. She's in the films Robot Stories, The Code, Skeletons in the Desert, Murder on the 13th Floor, and Woman on the Edge. She had recurring roles in All My Children, the 90210 reboot, and The Bay. And Jimmy Smagula is playing EMT. Grew up in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. He graduated from Lyndhurst High School. He was accepted into City Kids Repertory Company at 15. That's out of NYC. He shared the stage doing that stuff with Whitney Houston, Gloria Estefan, and Demi Moore. He got his BFA from Tisch at NYU. Made his professional acting debut at 20 in the Paper Mill Playhouse production of Man of La Mancha. He made his Broadway debut at 24 in The Full Monty. He's got a ton of stage credits, including playing Sir Bedivere and others in Spamalot on Broadway. He's in the films The Island, The Producers, again, the one from the mid-aughts, like 2006 or whatever, Step Up 3D, Rebel in the Rye, Bottom of the Ninth, and Joker, Folie à Deux, which is coming out shortly.
Yeah.
He had a recurring role in Community, Black Monday, and Doom Patrol. He also created the podcast Baby Mouth. Don't want to know what that's about.
Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with what you're thinking it's about, Josh.
But if it does... Then we got Michael Garfield Levine playing Officer Matt Roberts. He's a native New Yorker, studied at the Neighborhood Playhouse, and was an original member of the Circle Repertory Lab. He's done a ton of regional theater. He drove a cab in New York City for 5 years. He's in the films The Warriors, also in Slugs and Take My Daughters, Please. It's in 1 Criminal Intent and 4 episodes of the original series. He lives in the Hudson Valley, where he writes and rides bicycles. He raced bicycles for 30 years.
Should we talk about the episode?
Yeah, so Lisette has this party foisted upon her.
Yeah.
And
You cut
really
the breakers.
sends her down a dark path.
Breakers. Flip them.
But it sends her down a dark path into sexual addiction.
Lizette.
And, you know, 8 years later, we see her in Mask, and it's dark, you know?
Oh, it's dark, man.
Courtney, sure. Yeah, that's the name that she's going by in sexual
but that
rehab.
after she's in SA, you know, like when she's getting, you know, riled up by the sight of a grown man's forearms, you know.
Yeah.
Which she does.
As is everyone.
As one does.
So the responding officer is skeptical that Cheryl Avery was raped because she declined to have a rape kit done and because she brained the dude.
Yeah.
And when Liv can turn around, Cheryl is not there.
Mm-hmm. Which is, you know, problematic.
Suspicious.
But until he's dead, at this point, it's unclear that there's necessarily a crime that's been committed, you know, because it does seem like self-defense, but then he dies, so they have to continue investigating it.
My next note is heart palpitations, getting super weird vibes from Bad Heart Kid.
Yeah. It's bad, weird vibes, man. Seems like maybe he had too much Adderall. Maybe this guy's got ADHD.
Yeah. But I hope that means that he can help whoever needs it in this episode.
Yeah.
Steal a bunch of TV VCRs.
Yeah.
So Cheryl asks when they've brought her in, will I go to jail? And Elliot says, not if he attacked you. It's self-defense. Mm-hmm. Now, not that this probably isn't obvious, but does Elliot need to provide her with a way out like that? Like if she did murder him in cold blood, which it doesn't seem like is what happened at this point, but still, if she did, he's laying the groundwork for her defense, and that kind of seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, but maybe you're trying to be like, well, just tell us what happened. I'm sure it wasn't a big deal. You know, maybe that's his strategy there. I honestly feel like the only thing that keeps them investigating this, assuming that it's not self-defense, is the unit's own transphobia when they find out that Cheryl's trans. Like, because they all go like, oh, it's a man, baby. And like somehow that changes things. Because it still seems like it's self-defense, and it seems like
it sure does.
A real department.
Seems like one juror would see it that way also.
Yeah, I would think so. But I just think that
even
also
in 2003.
In 2003, a big city police unit would, at that point, still see it as self-defense.
At least SVUs.
SVUs, but still, this unit with Benson and Cragen and Wong and Cabot all involved would be like, let's move on to the next one. This is self-defense. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because it really takes a lot of sleuthing to parse the thing that is maybe not self-defense, but maybe still is, but maybe isn't.
Now, Cabot is not jonesing to charge Cheryl since it looks like she was assaulted.
Yeah.
The blood work comes back and Joe was on crystal meth.
Yeah.
Then Joe's dying words in the ambo were, get Eddie, he did it. And I don't think that's a tell later anyway. Like, he's not...
Yeah, what since when do dying words, like, factor into a serious investigation? What is this? Like, fucking Hardy Boys or something? Give me a break.
We also discovered that maybe the sprained ankle wasn't from playing basketball.
Oh. I really should play basketball with a sprained ankle.
I bet, like, sort of gimpy Eddie here was, I bet he's got a sick crossover.
You think so? Yeah. You think he's got a pull-up
big
jumper?
Time. Yeah.
I think it's more the guy in the pickup game who just is like, his game is 5-on-5 half court. Doesn't have to run. Can just pick and pop. Just pick, like, he's popping passes.
Eddie takes it to the hole. So then they come to the thrift shop that Cheryl's working in, and she is full on like necking in the back of the thrift shop.
Yeah.
Which seems very weird. Like, did they get a charge out of murdering somebody?
Yeah. You could have gone in a different direction with this, like
especially because in retrospect, we know that he knows that she accidentally killed his brother.
Yeah.
And it seems
so
very weird that they would be like that charged still.
Yeah, that
I mean, I
hot.
know he didn't love his brother. Like, his brother kind of sucked.
Well,
like this would be like how Drew would view it if I died.
Horned up. So
that one's just for you, Drew.
But yeah, no, exactly. Like, they really left the door open for maybe a way to, like, they definitely committed to the polemic before they got to the scene. But they had an opportunity to just make that a red herring. Like, make the trans thing, like, a red herring. Like they so often do so colorfully in season 4. Why not? Why not? But instead, they really leaned into it. And as we've noted before, I don't know if serious and thoughtful is the best look for this show, because they don't really have the space or the kind of language, the cinematic.
Yeah, they haven't established the language for it, at least
to really deal with it in an interesting way. Right, like they can get out something that does kind of show you the scope of the issue, but it's hard to really tell the story in a way that's allowing the story to tell itself properly.
Right,
it has to be ham-fisted if they're trying to deal with a hot button complicated issue. At least
which
in their
this
eyes.
is.
Yeah, which definitely is.
Yeah.
Especially in 2004.
When Cheryl and Eddie won't cop to Eddie being present at the time of death, the unit jumps to Cheryl banging one out with Joe and Eddie walking in on them. Mm-hmm. Then we get kind of a wait and see what the physical evidence indicates. Like,
yeah. Who's the most right-wing weirdo we've got?
Yeah.
Trevor Burt.
And we find out that another man's blood was on Cheryl's shirt.
Yeah.
And per the framing of this episode, that other man's blood is Cheryl's.
Yeah.
Again,
this is where it really kicks off.
This is where the transphobia really gets turned up to 13. We get a bunch of T-bombs. We get a later H/S pronouns slur. Liv says, "I've seen plenty of T-bombs, but she is amazing."
That was kind of fun.
Then Wong is like, she's got to be taking hormones, and then Kragen immediately jumps to, boys with breasts get more money on the street.
Dude, I know, it's crazy.
Assuming that she has to be a sex worker, like that is just how it goes, like, I guess.
The thing is, I mean, it's as you have to put yourself back into the shoes of somebody in 2003 watching this, but
it's still immediately jumping to sex work as a problem.
Exactly. As sad as it is, like, the slurs were quite common back then, right? And they weren't.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give us a pass that we didn't know better, but they were commonly used.
Right.
And
especially the T-bomb.
Yes. But assuming that she's like a sex worker because of this stuff. And also, the other thing that pisses me off here is that they're assuming that, like, she's saving up money for a sex change operation without any evidence of that. We have...
She says that.
Later she says that. But the unit is assuming, before she says that, the unit is assuming that without any fucking evidence. Like sometimes people want to move to the Catskills or like buy a PlayStation or something. Like,
Sure.
like, shouldn't you like talk to them about their motivations before you assume that like this is what like she's trying to do? We don't even know that she hasn't had it at this point.
Correct.
To my knowledge. I mean, they didn't like Bert Trevor didn't use any
Yeah. There's
any
been,
like science talk, insert science talk here. He didn't use anything to indicate whether or not she had testicles at that point.
Yeah, nothing's been confirmed until we get the low-key sexual assault in front of Stabler, where Eddie grabs Cheryl's junk.
Crazy. Again, a suspect walks out of an interrogation room into another interrogation room and then walks himself to the bathroom to commit suicide.
We get the line, what you do in your private life is your business. We're also still in the early aughts, like sort of misconception of gender.
Yeah.
So Elliot's saying that we're talking about Cheryl being a man instead of saying she's a transgender woman.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the like lower grade transphobia that's happening in a very transphobic episode.
Yeah.
Is that, the sort of the misgendering, or the, still holding on to a conception of gender that doesn't really apply anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it
shouldn't have applied then.
But one wants to think it doesn't apply anymore, but I think it sadly does a lot of times.
Sure, yeah. Now, Eddie didn't know because he's seen her breasts. And here is where we get, Eddie doesn't take this well, and this is where we get
some acting.
Ace Ventura level transphobia.
I haven't seen Ace Ventura long enough to remember the transphobia.
Oh no,
scene.
this is the Lois Einhorn. Is that what it was?
Now I'm remembering. It's coming back to me.
The crying game, crying in the shower, played for a joke. All of that. And then Eddie grabs her joint.
At this point, I'm wishing I could drop in the Crying Game song because it's a great song.
Great song. Good, very good movie too.
Yeah, very good movie. Stephen Ray.
Not nearly as transphobic as I think history has sort of led people to think it is, because he's actually ultimately okay with it.
Yeah, the weird thing about the Crying Game is that the marketing for it really had the trans reveal be like the whole movie, and it's not.
Yeah, and it's like at the the first act break.
Exactly,
basically.
it's not at all, and it is a very good movie.
Eddie grabs her joint. That happened in this episode.
It's a very weird sequence that he just like walks out.
That allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
So this is where we find out that Joe found out her secret and was going to blab, so she killed him when he was leaving.
Yeah.
Eddie has the line, "My brother's dead because my girlfriend's a guy."
I wrote, "Yikes!" afterwards.
Yeah, that is not great. And then Bad Heart Eddie ODs on his meds because he can't handle having dated a trans woman.
Yeah,
Jesus. Well, Tucker sachets in.
What? They just dropped this Tucker plot.
Yeah.
Why is Tucker there?
Because
if you're not going to follow up on that, but Tucker's got full head of hair in this episode. Shout out to that.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. R.I.P. hair.
And it's like, of course Tucker came. You assholes let him walk out of the interrogation room into another interrogation room, and then out of that interrogation room into the bathroom, unsupervised, where he could then take as many of the fucking, like, the poison pills, like digitoxin is, like, that's how, like, every other person is murdered in Murder, She Wrote, is with that heart medication. Because if you overdose on it, it looks like a heart attack.
Heart attack, yeah.
Fucking Jess loves that device.
So then we get this, the press immediately asking if Cheryl's defense will be arguing insanity. Because apparently that's the only defense that the press thinks that.
This was like the lowest energy press scrum I think I've seen. Like,
yeah.
So they leave him. They ask for insanity. He says nothing, and then Cabot walks out. With
Stonewalls him, yeah.
But they're like, just give us something, Cabot. Just help us out here. And then they just drop it and walk away. Very, and not even a person on screen talking. Just all production staff, I assume, was doing the voice work there. Those were not credited actors doing the voice work. So I want to step out of the episode for a second and talk about some things that are, to me, equally important. For one, as I often do, I look at the addresses that are listed here.
Sure.
Because I lived in New York for 2 years. I know where a lot of these places are. They're familiar to me, especially Manhattan. The thrift store where Cheryl works and her parents' house where she grew up and was then thrown out of the house are on the same fucking block. The same fucking block. Like not even like maybe around the corner from each other, but on the same fucking block. And this block happens to be 1 block off of Tompkins Square. So for the parents saying, quote, "We got 2 youngest sons and a daughter. How could we explain Charlie waxing his legs and wearing makeup?" Unquote. You live a block off of fucking Tompkins Square Park in 2004. Park, yeah. Everyone there is a fucking freak. Every single person is a freak, right? Yeah. And like the trans people are normal.
Would be the most normal of yeah.
Like your 2 younger sons, they've peed in the urinal at Tompkins Square Park. There was a junkie passed out underneath the urinal while they were peeing there. Like, yeah, that's not like an uncommon thing. That's a normal thing there. You grow up fast in that neighborhood. There's a lot going on.
They've seen the New York that Giuliani tried to get rid of.
Preposterous that's like that's the neighborhood you grow up in and you have this problem. But also just like last thing about that block, the block that they live on and she works on happens to be where, in my mind, come at me, tell me I'm wrong, but I think the best bagels in New York City can be purchased on that block at the original Tompkins Square Bagel location. It's the only place, or one of the only places, where they still hand roll their bagels. There's a great documentary about the bagel roller for Tompkins Square Bagel. And their bagels are amazing.
Sister Sarah says Cheryl is the bravest person she knows. We're assuming that Sister Sarah has 2 mules. Yeah. And that Cheryl was relentlessly bullied upon coming out.
Yeah. This episode does a face turn is what it does at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it goes from completely dehumanizing Cheryl and like talking about every stereotype to actually kind of humanizing her and showing her struggles.
Right.
And that's what makes this one, like, I could easily dismiss
it. Kind of sheds its transphobia halfway through, and it tries to get woke, which wasn't a thing in 2003, but
it also sheds Stabler at this point. Like, he's just not in the episode anymore.
yeah. They're like, let's get that transphobe out of here.
Yeah.
Now, Cabot's not pleased with Wong backing Cheryl's belief that she was acting in self-defense.
Yeah.
But mostly because, like, she's seeing her case circle the drain. Berger wants to change society's misconceptions. Gender's not always binary. People are afraid of what they don't know, which, yeah. Anyway, so Cabot wants to meet with Cheryl without her attorney present, which
seems bad.
Not legal.
Yeah, it seems like
not legal.
If you're proposing that meetup, like, you could get disbarred for that. I don't know what the grounds are, but it seems like you would get some kind of citation. You would get yelled at by important people.
But we're here trading grounds for disbarment with Berger, who never tells Cheryl about the Man One plea offer. So we've got both lawyers acting very,
Not in the interests of the client.
Or justice.
Yeah. Or like ethics.
You can't do any of that. Yeah, it's entirely unethical what Cabot's doing. And whatever. So Berger thinks she's making a big mistake, but Cheryl takes 5 years on man one. Then Berger wants Benson to talk to Cheryl. And this is where we find out that Cheryl will be taken to a man's prison.
Yeah.
At which point, because the ink isn't dry on the plea deal, the guilty plea is rescinded and they go to trial because the options are either to go off hormones or to be in 23-hour-a-day protective custody, which I will say that the Rikers shit at the end, then wouldn't they be able to have arranged this 23-hour-a-day protective custody for her in that instance? But it would also be a lot longer on a man one charge. Anyway, Cabot thinks that she is too sympathetic to Cheryl, but Branch thinks that empathy is good. This seems like a very strange scene for Fred Thompson to be acting in because he's kind of just being like somewhat reasonable when dealing with the trying of a trans woman and their gender being put on trial, which I wouldn't necessarily assume would jibe with Fred Thompson's belief structure, his general ideology.
Yeah. Neither the
maybe
character
I'm not
of
giving
D.A.
him credit,
Branch or
but either one,
actual person of Fred Dalton Thompson. I mean, did you look into the rip from the headlines at all in this episode? Because I think this is somewhat alluding to the case of D. Farmer. And because I remembered this from my childhood vaguely. So I'll just throw it out there, and I will include a link to the wiki page. I have not done tons of research, but Dee Farmer was a trans woman who was convicted of credit card fraud in 1986 and was, in 1989, assigned to the male population at Terre Haute. Within 2 weeks of arriving, Farmer was beaten and sexually assaulted and exposed to HIV. And there was a number of lawsuits regarding that after the fact, which did lead to some rights for transgendered people in prison. But of course, this is prison in the United States, so basically you have no rights when you're in prison.
Right. Yeah. So here we get the whole the medical expert, speaking of the trial about gender identity dysphoria, talking about the hypothalamus gland in the brain, specifically the stria terminalis.
Philip Hoffman, not Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes, sadly.
I mean, I would like to see this Philip Hoffman getting hate baited by Amy Adams as well, but did not happen.
Yeah. And this, I'm assuming the science checks out. I didn't look into it, but where the stria terminalis of the female and the male to female transsexual is basically the same size.
Folks, we're lazy. We're lazy and we don't do the research anymore.
I can't even watch the episode twice anymore, which I used to. I used to watch it twice, and I can't do it. I just can't.
I know. Sometimes I can do it, but not often.
So since the stria terminalis is only observable post-mortem, we can't establish that Cheryl's brain is physiologically female, unless she's fucking dead. Which maybe they'll be able to at the end of this episode, I guess. Ugh.
It's kind of a cliffhanger there.
Yeah. This is like Junior Seau or any of the CTE football players who make sure to shoot themselves in the
stomach,
chest, in the chest through the heart to make sure that their brains can still be examined while they're suffering from pretty severe CTE.
Yeah, dark. Yeah, really makes you have fun on Sunday, doesn't it, guys?
Yeah. Way to watch that
Raw,
football.
go team.
Cabot puts Cheryl's deceit on trial.
Yeah.
Cheryl cops to her happiness with Eddie also being threatened. The jury returns a guilty verdict, which I don't realistically think would get returned.
Not in this case, right? Like,
I think there's at least one person on the jury who would hold out and it'd be a hung jury.
I don't know. It seems like it should be a fucking mistrial because of Cabot's witness tampering.
Well, if Berger alerts anybody to what she did, then he has to
mutual assured destruction.
Nuclear option there. Cabot is asked on a date by Benson.
Mm-hmm.
Bad
timing, Liv. Bad timing. Because Cabot did the thing that she knew was wrong.
Yeah.
And
she thinks that she pushed Cheryl too hard, and Liv is like, no, you just did your job. Come on, let's get a drink.
But Cabot enjoyed it, which is the thing that's fucked up. Cabot enjoys breaking people down and destroying them. She gets off on it. You could tell she was smiling when she was.
Well, that's why Liv is wanting to go out on the date.
Yeah, she wants to get that. That I just condemn somebody to death. Sex. That's the best sex there is.
Yep. Then Liv gets a phone call. They're off to Bellevue. Cheryl was gang raped at Rikers.
Yeah. Didn't take long.
Oh. It's not fun. Very transphobic. Not fun.
And scene. Let's rank this episode, Josh. I don't think we relish ranking an episode like this, which is...
No, I think we struggle with how to do this.
So
still, we're 230 episodes in, and I don't.
Well, because the irony of the show that is really trying to be realistic is that it doesn't do tragedy that well most of the time.
Right.
Yep. And
I think this maybe does it better than it usually does.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's bad. But it's just hard to because of the way they have to walk like idiot Americans through what's going on here and like how they're supposed. It's not so much what's going on through here, but the steps
I think
through which they're supposed to feel like. Mm-hmm. Revulsion and confusion and hate and ridicule and all these other things. Like the episode feels the need to like do all of those things instead of assuming that we get the fact that like society feels that way about people. And
to be fair,
in
2003, I think a lot of this we kind of have to we can't divorce today from then.
Sure.
Entirely. And I think there's a certain amount of consideration that we have to give for this originating in 2003.
But okay, if we're
from 2003,
we've talked about it already, but if you think about the Crying Game, the film, right?
Yeah. Which is before this,
which is a lot before
1990.
This. Yep. The Crying Game
or 92
is playing in a similar pool, right? Mm-hmm. with the shock and how to process this information that we're not comfortable with and don't quite understand. But it does it in a much more like nuanced and interesting way because it's not trying to tell Ma and Pa from Peoria that their feelings are acceptable and that
it's not slowing down for those in the flyover states.
Exactly.
This is having to do a different thing. Or it feels obligated to do a different thing. I don't know that it actually has to do it, but
it's like a problem with the show as a concept, right? Like SVU, like when it deals with like legitimate hot button issues, which especially in 2004, 2003, like this is not like we haven't been told as a society how to feel, how to process things.
It feels the need to crib all of that shit in this like in this like sort of gift wrapping it for idiots sort of presentation that it doesn't actually need to do.
Yes,
probably. It would do more good to treat it normally to just jump to
Yeah.
and not like not pay heed to all of the sort of transgressive nonsense that this
ends up spending a lot of time with. And it also, we also have to deal with the fact that they had to kind of shoehorn the quote unquote transgender issue into a quote unquote crime that is tenuous at best and doesn't feel like anybody would waste their time investigating this very long.
And sure doesn't feel like a jury would return a guilty verdict because, again,
I just think that you have an overworked city police department and district attorney's office,
right,
and you look at this and you go,
that can write this off as self-defense and be like, whatever. It's not our problem anymore. Do you know how expensive it is to take a fucking case to trial, and how very few of those actually happen? Like, yeah, and then to put up a person to imprison them for 5 or 15 years,
and have 4 detectives working this, even though like Finn and Munch basically don't exist in this one. I think maybe we see them in the background, but barely. I don't think we see Munch at all. I feel like Finn's in a scene, but I don't remember.
I feel like Munch is credit only. No, Munch is in a scene.
He's in a scene.
They're in the club. They must be in the. Oh, yeah. They're in the. They're in the house, like at the, on the floor of the precinct.
Yeah. At the bullpen. But it's still. It just kind of strains credulity. Like, come up with a better crime if you want to if you want to have it out with the hot button issue. Like, come up with a better crime to
right. I'm inclined to say like a 5.
At the same time, it's not a total swing and miss, right? Like, I don't think it's and it also
I think it's doing things, or it's trying to do things that are good, and it's doing things badly, and I think that it's sort of like in the middle, probably meets at a 5.
Well,
right?
but because I don't want to give like later season SVUs a pass on this either, because I think that even when SVU becomes woke and is like, like
much worse.
Yeah, it's in a way it's just as bad, right? Because it's still like not like it's still like not dealing with like
it's
people
still finding
that are
a way to talk down to the audience.
Yeah, it's still finding a way to talk down to the audience and deal with people that are different than the audience's conception of themselves, as if they're fucking zoo animals, as opposed to being like
right. Instead of just these are normal
people.
Yeah,
which in a way this episode does a little bit better job of making her seem like a normal person than.
I mean, I guess I'd be maybe we should bump that to a 6.
Yeah, because it has ambitions, this episode does, and I don't think it's a complete miss.
And it has ambitions in 2003.
Yeah. Okay, so the quality of the guests, again, bad and good. You got Shane from the L Word, who I think was pretty good, and you've got Jesse from the Fast and the Furious, who I don't necessarily have such great feelings about.
Glad to see him off himself.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
5.
Yeah, 5. So, okay, problematic. I don't know what to say about this. I don't know where to go. It's not. I mean, the problematic stuff is not fun,
but it's wildly transphobic.
And
once it gets woke, we still have the trans victim / perp gang raped.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to get around this being anything less than like a 7, right? The parents like continually dead name the child.
It's crazy. Yeah.
The parents
like
are
a 1
monsters.
or it's like an 8, It's like one of those.
I think because of its larger goals, we can at least like I think that any of the transphobia that like Elliot's transphobia specifically, I think they backseat him for a reason.
Yeah. It's exactly like there's a reason why like Elliot's prominent in the first.
We get an
half
Ace
of the episode.
Ventura scene, man.
Dude, it's crazy.
They pull the straight Ace Ventura scene and the grabbing of the junk.
Yeah, it's crazy. Was there girth? Was there girth in frame?
I don't think we're seeing junk and fist.
Who handled the package? That's what I want to know.
This has to be like a 7, right?
Yeah. Now you convinced me. That's the one part where I can maybe find joy in this kind of litany of horrors. Perverse joy.
My brother's dead because my girlfriend's a guy. He says that.
But this is all kind of the most...
In the middle of his Ace Ventura meltdown.
Yeah. It's all the kind of the worst kind of problematic, though. Most of it. Now, it turns out is improbably in service for a reasonably woke episode, right?
It's baffling. It's baffling weird. That it got there. And then it got from point A to point B. Pretty jarring.
Then, of course, the last thing that we see in the episode before the cut to Dick Wolf is her bruised and bodied maybe corpse. Like we don't know that she's dead or alive, but everybody else that's been bruised or battered
we don't know that we don't know that she'll live through this.
Yeah, everybody else who's been like flat back on the floor has been dead in this episode. Less than a minute later, so it seems like she might not live. It's pretty rough.
And ultimately, I think what this episode is saying is this is the price that you pay if you lie to your significant other about being trans. That's an underlying consequence, which is bullshit. Okay, so Fallout, shithead dies.
The shithead dies who we didn't know. Bad actor dies who, more than anything, I mean, I guess Cheryl's like been so like her psyche has been so worn down by her childhood traumas that she doesn't realize that she's a fucking smoke show in Detective Benson's words, not mine.
No judgment from either of us.
Yeah, but
Benson thinks she is hot.
I mean, again, just walk across.
Benson thinks she's so hot. Benson thinks that Cheryl is so hot that Benson, at the end of this episode, is like, "Hey, Alex, what's up?"
You just take she could take the M14 or the L train for 2 minutes and be in But
we both know that Benson wants Cabot to turn her crank. I get it.
But she could go to Gaytopia and be basically slay, just completely slay.
So
anyone she wants in Chelsea.
So in the depth and breadth of Lives Ruined, Benson and Cabot both have blue balls.
Well, it's Cabot's fault. Benson tries to break through the wall.
But they've both got blue balls here.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's got to factor in.
It's got to factor in.
Does that make it a 10?
For this podcast, maybe. What happens to Cheryl is terrible. And,
yes.
And the thing about it is that
Cheryl's serving as a more than most times in SVU, a kind of richly somewhat richly defined and designed character that's meant to serve as a sort of stand-in for all trans
for a whole community
who end up in the
Yep. And I do think that they successfully pull that off. We care about Cheryl and Cheryl's fall is a tragedy that is pulled off in a way that it is not often pulled off in SVU. To me, this kind of reminded me of Juvenile for that reason.
Right. Yeah. Where I think that this is, we were joking about a 10, and I don't think it's a 10 for Fallout, but it's an 8 or 9, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they land this.
We gave Juvenile a 9 for this category. Now that was back in episode 5, so our
right. I think we'd probably tone it down a little bit, but probably only to an 8. I would say that this is an 8. I think
there's two
because
bodies
they land the Cheryl stuff
of people we don't like, but the Cheryl stuff is the Cheryl one is the thing that matters.
We aren't meant to hate Eddie. We just end up hating Eddie because.
God, it's bad. It's rough. Bad. It's rough. No offense. I'm sure
Chad.
it was the lines on the page.
Yeah. Come on the podcast.
Anyways, yeah, I guess we screwed that. We burned that bridge probably. I'm fine with. I think an 8. I think an 8 makes sense. I think that kind of describes the episode pretty well. Now it comes out as a 6.5, which most recently ties it with Secrets. That was season 2, episode 12, which we titled Inferno the Musical. That's great. So Josh, I think it's time for a live roll.
Yep. So heading over to episode.lol, which was built for this podcast by friend of the pod, Flet, who also co-created cinequote.net, your daily movie quote trivia game. My streak is up to 60-something right now.
Nice.
The tape is spinning. Bill and Ted
I hate this shit.
are not happy. They do hate this. Season 1.
Oh, okay.
Episode 3.
Wow. All right. ...
Or just look like one.
Ellipses or
Ellipses.
It's ellipses
Or just look like one.
or just look like one. Interesting.
Yep. This one has Catherine Dent, BB Newirth, Jerry Orbach, and Jesse L. Martin are in it.
Okay.
Michael Mastro's in it.
Nice.
2 underage models are attacked, raped, and killed. The detectives identify the background details of the modeling business.
If you are like me and you're sick of listening to ads, I think it's time you signed up for our Patreon, where for $3 a month, you get the entire back catalog ad-free. Now, actually, you get all but the first 10. To get the first 10, you have to message Josh Dugan. Not a big deal.
I messaged them. They
You
just need to
messaged them.
respond to the message.
Oh, nice. Now, guys, if you want to hear the hour or so of content that I will cut out from this, maybe more. Last week's Josh probably cut a full 2 hours out of the episode.
Probably.
Somehow. But you're going to want to sign up for our Munchy
Pretty
tier.
easily, I think.
You get the entire unedited episode a week early, as well as access to our movie club, which at this point we will have just watched The New Kids, which will be a lot of fun, which I can't wait for. How long has it been since I saw a sister and brother try to run the family amusement park film? It's one of my favorite genres.
It's maybe the best genre in the film.
But by the time this episode drops, we will have watched that film. And I can't wait. Now, if you want to discuss this episode and everything that was fucked up about it, and maybe everything that they got right, I would recommend joining our Discord. You can find the links to that in the show notes or at our website, which is munchmybenson.com. Both of those places will also get you the links to our various social media accounts, including our links at our accounts at Love Studs, Facebook, Instagram, FaceSpace, all the important sites these days.
Love Studs. Did you say
I
Love
mentioned
Studs?
Love Studs.
Okay.
Of course, Love Studs is really where
I was still looking up weird background actors in this episode.
like Josh mostly posts at Love Studs. We still have a vestigial
Entirely.
presence elsewhere, but mostly at Love Studs. Let's see. Oh yeah, you can also find our merch, which we keep getting new ideas for merch. We don't necessarily keep getting more executions of merch, but we have new ideas all the time.
Yeah, I keep notes. I have a page of notes in here.
Nice.
Merch ideas. Yeah.
Nice. That's doing the Lord's work, Josh.
I'm making notes. I'm not actually executing any of them, but
But this. Anyways, I think we're both pretty tired. I think it's time to get out there and start munching. Josh has got to flee to Canada tomorrow, maybe something like that. We'll see.
okay?
Oh, I'll never be okay.
This wasn't your fault.
Yeah, it was. My brother's dead because my girlfriend's a guy.
No one knew.
What if, I didn't know deep down?
You were in love with a woman. That's what you knew. You sure you're okay?
Yeah.
Huh?
I need some air.
Oh! I need some help in here! What happened? He doesn't collapse. He's got a heart condition.
Call an ambulance.